Hi guys. So for something entirely different. Good afternoon. My name is Steven van Pavert, or Steven. I'm heading the business development at icometrix. And I was asked by Jack to come and share a little bit about the transition that I made coming from academia and then making my way into industry, and a few reflections that I've done along the way. Can you use this one, right? All right, so let me first start with this slide. There was a 2010 study done by the Royal Society looking at PhD students and people in academic and at their career trajectory. And I don't know if you can see it in the back. I'm not sure if it's overly clear, but they found that 53% of PhD students leave academia after their PhD. And only 0.45% of PhD students become a tenured professor. So that's 1 in 200 people. I don't know how many people are in the room, but give or take 2 people here will become a professor. So what I'm trying to say from that perspective, the alternative career route is academia. So with keeping that in mind, it's probably worth it if I explain a little bit about where I come from and what I do at the moment. I think it's fair to say that I'm passionate about the brain. I have done my bachelor's and a master's in psychology, cognitive neuroscience, and then I ended up doing research in multiple sclerosis research, using MRI mainly, here at UCL, where I continue doing my PhD as well. Then I found myself always being very interested in the bigger picture. So I've always been reading up on the news, or what else is going on out there. So and then also trying to link what do I do and how does that fit in the bigger picture in society. So doing that, reading up on the brain, I came across the following graph, and you probably have come across this one. Does anyone know what this is representing? It's a tricky question because there are no axes. No? Yes. All right. Yeah?
PhD students or?
No. No, that's a good guess actually. Well, it's not increasing that exponentially, luckily. That would be a tough sector. No, this is the number of. Yeah? No. Almost give it away.
Is the use of AI related?
No, it's not. Also, well, that is increasing that exponentially. Let me give you the answer. So this is the number of Alzheimer's patients in the world. So right now, we're at 50 million people. How many people live in the UK? So to sketch how many we are. But roughly in 1 generation time, this will triple. So this gave me a bit of food for thought, right? So I'm doing my PhD in neuroscience, and I find it important to, in my career, do something meaningful. And I was thinking, with my skill set, how can I do this best? So this is probably, for me personally, one of the most important slides that I created. So there's a lot of innovation happening in universities, but also in companies. But ultimately, this innovation needs to reach the patient. And this gap in between needs to be done by industry. And I suppose I will get to that later as well. If you, for instance, develop the cure for cancer, say, in your lab, this needs to be tested. There needs to be a commercial organization. If you like that or not, you need to have this. You need to have the industry to be able to actually translate it, test it, to market it, and bring it ultimately to doctors to bring it to the patients. And that's pharma, but you also have a lot of other innovation that needs to go via industry to ultimately reach it. So here I was. I wanted to do something meaningful, help translate this innovation. So what I did is I did a fair bit of self-reflection. So I was thinking, okay, this is what I want to do. What am I good at? And what am I not so good at? What are my skills? So I then started taking a fair number of business courses, which I would recommend you do as well, actually. UCL offered at the time, probably still, a lot of business courses that you're able to take. So I took courses in marketing, in finance, strategy. I even took some free MBA courses at London Business School, just because it was there. And then in addition to that, and I think this is even more important than all these courses, I started reaching out to people. Maybe not quite like with a romantic letter, but I was using LinkedIn a lot. I was sending emails and just, yeah, asking people, could we just meet for a coffee? Could we just, can I just pick your brain? Can I just listen to how you got to where you are and what you do in your daily life, and if that's something for me? And I found that incredibly valuable. Because ultimately, this resulted in me securing this 3-month internship in Teva Pharmaceuticals. Teva Pharmaceuticals is a company that makes drugs against different diseases, including multiple sclerosis, which is what I was doing my PhD on. I spent 3 months there at European level looking at how MRI fits in what they do. So spending those 3 months at this level of at this European level really made me understand the value of science in such an organization, but also the different departments and the different skills that all go hand in hand there. Then I went back to UCL, finished my PhD, and here I was at the end of my PhD. So I finished, so I had done my PhD successfully. I did all these business courses. I did, I did this placement, and then I was reflecting, what do I want to do? And at that point, I realized, I think my skill set, what I have, is probably better outside academia than inside. So again, I started speaking to a lot of people and managed to secure, a temporary role in Switzerland with Novartis, which is also a company making drugs against different diseases. And my role there was to help them look at biotech startups that take drugs, and then to see if these biotech startups are developing drugs, and as Novartis, you might want to do a deal with these companies to either in-license the drug or to buy up these companies, and that needs to be done strategically. So my role was to, with the scientific mindset, with the scientific hat on, look at all these different companies and then give advice on what would be an interesting company to do a deal with. And then ultimately, after this, I got a call from the CEO of icometrix, where I work currently, if I wanted to head up their business development. So icometrix, just a small introduction. Love the company, it's amazing. So icometrix is the leading company that quantifies brain scans. So we take CT scans or MRI scans, and we use artificial intelligence to quantify what is going on in the brain. So normally what happens is you get these scans, and a radiologist looks at the scans and then writes a report. We have algorithms that can do this, and we take away this error that is introduced by radiologists. So if I were to ask you, or if I were to ask you to look at this scan, you would come up with slightly different ideas of what is a damage or not, and that is hugely important for the patient, because treatment decisions are based made on this. So practically, what we do this in different diseases. We have solutions used in dementia, traumatic brain injury, multiple sclerosis, and more to come. So it's a very exciting, cool field. So what I practically do is I go to conferences. I speak on a daily basis to radiologists, to neurologists, to pharmaceutical companies, to have them send their scans to us, so that we can analyze this and thereby help them. So practically, what that means is I am still using the science that I was doing in my PhD on a day-to-day basis. But I'm not actually doing the science, I'm now working with the science, if you see what I mean. I need to have a thorough understanding of our technology, but I'm not developing the technology. But then in addition to that, and that is, I suppose, more suited to my skill set, is that I'm actively doing a lot of networking, I'm doing sales, and then one of the important things as well as being head of business development is helping shape the strategy of the company. So I take information that I get from customers that I speak to, and then translate that back into, which direction are we going to go to. Shameless plug here, Jack, sorry. We're developing very fast. If this is something specifically that you're interested in, we're based in Belgium/Chicago. Speak to me afterwards, because things are happening. Anyway, moving on. So, my reflections. So what are my reflections on having made that transition? So firstly, your PhD. All of you will be a world expert in your specific field, and that is actually quite stunning, I find. You probably know more about your specific field than your supervisor does. And what I found, I hear some laughing here, but what I found is that in academia, in industry, you have world experts also in each of their fields, but they are all working together, right? So let's take pharma as an example. You have people that are experts in molecular folding of the proteins. You have people who are experts on mouse models. You have people who are experts on designing clinical trials. And all of these people need to work together to ultimately bring this drug, develop it all the way, and get it tested and ultimately bring it to the patient. So what that then means is that on a day-to-day basis, you're speaking to a lot of different people. You have a lot of different types of meetings, and you need to, in your head, understand just the sheer complexity of what it means to develop this innovation. I suppose this is also an important slide. This is something that I spend a fair bit, a fair bit of time thinking about when making the decision to indeed move away from academia, and especially into pharma, because, well, I don't need to explain, pharma doesn't exactly have the best reputation, and for historical reasons, often deservedly so. But what I would like to, I think what you need to bear in mind, ultimately, pharmaceutical companies, or in general companies, are there to make money. They're not charities. So these companies sell drugs to patients that ultimately need them, or healthcare systems for patients that need them. But on the other hand, on the flip side of the coin, without these companies, these drugs wouldn't even be developed. Governments and academic institutions, however willing they might be, are not able to put up $2.5 billion on average for a single drug, and 12 years to get a drug ultimately approved and into market. So, yes, it's ethically, there are some question marks. No, not question marks. Ethically, I would say just think about what you're doing, because there are certain companies that have a very bad reputation for reasons, but other companies actually don't. So what I'm just asking yourself, just do your due diligence and make a decision on what company you would be interested in working for and what not. But don't stroke them all with the same brush. And for me personally, I find that I'm able to have a larger impact on society at the end of the day. I'm actually actively helping getting innovation to all these neurologists and radiologists around the world on a day-to-day basis. And I find that personally really rewarding. And So, skills that you might have developed throughout your career but you might not actually know you have, that are very valuable outside of academia. So first of all, you're an expert in your field. We talked about that earlier. But in addition to that, you have developed a scientific mindset. So you have you know how to ask the right questions. You know how to structure hypotheses. You know how to build how to speak to the right people, how to get the right people on board from different departments to ultimately get the right data to answer your questions. Then you might be very good at data analysis, you might be really good at statistics, you might be good at programming. All these things are incredibly valuable outside of it. And then ultimately, you're good at communicating this. You write papers, but we had just heard a beautiful talk on that. You're good at, you're probably good at speaking. So there are a lot of things that are definitely translatable into different situations as well. All of this is very nice, but then practically, what would I, from having sort of seen two sides of this story, of industry versus academia, what would I recommend you do? And I would even recommend it if you don't take the decision to move away from academia, I would still recommend you to read the news. Get an understanding of where your small little puzzle piece fits in the bigger context of society, and you might make links that you wouldn't have otherwise made. And and then this one, take business courses, or not even business courses, other courses are very valuable as well. Public speaking could be one of them. There are even courses on networking. And what is surprising, all these courses, at least UCL offers them for free. You can just work on all these skills. So go on your university website and check it out. Then politely, be polite, stalk people. Ask people, hey, could we just meet for a coffee? Ask friends of friends of friends of friends of friends. Could we just talk about what do you do in your daily job? Pick people's brains and ask people the question: how do you get to where you are today? What choices did you make along the way? Is that something that's interesting for me personally, or it might very well not be? But then still, you learn about you get an informed opinion about what might be interesting for you or not. And you know what's surprising? Everybody says yes. Everybody loves to meet for a coffee. Well, people are busy, of course, don't get me wrong. But 9 out of 10 people are very happy to come and meet for a coffee and then have a chat about and help people. Honestly, just reach out to people. Oh yeah, and have I mentioned LinkedIn, by the way? Start using LinkedIn if you're not already on it. But I guess this is the most important thing. Take a little moment to consider what is important to you. So what is it that drives you? Is it, what are you passionate about? So are you really good at data science? Do you want to make a very big impact? That can be done both in academia or outside of academia. Are you good at writing? Do you want to be a nature editor? So just take I suppose all of you are currently doing that. That's the reason why you're here in the first place. But what I'm urging you to do is also to think about, don't take the academic route because your default option is to take the next postdoc, but think about if your skill set and your goals are maybe better suited in a different setting. Because you might very well find you actually like it. So with that, I would like to thank you very much, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
So I think we have at least one question coming in from slide A. 2, excellent.
There you go. Oof, putting me on the spot, I don't know. Well, I suppose there are loads of online courses that you can do. It's a good question. Well, you want to read the question? Or?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Unfortunately, UCL doesn't offer any free business or entrepreneurial courses anymore. If
Not
they
at all.
ever did, Stephen, are there any free courses or resources that you know of?
As I just said. So probably, well, first of all, I didn't know that. Sorry. But, I mean, there are more and more courses are becoming available online, aren't they? So you can, Coursera and all these kind of open online courses. Go have a look at it. And Khan Academy, incredible. You can just sit there and watch this video, this guy talking to you for 20 minutes about how you have a balance sheet. I mean, that might not be the most interesting, but maybe marketing courses, or there's so many things that you can just find out online. So that might be a very good entry point.
Thanks very much. We are moderating these, but we thought we'd put you on the spot.
Sorry?
We are moderating these questions, but we thought we'd put you on the spot. There's a good second question here. How did you land your temporary role in Novartis?
Yeah, very good question. Speaking to people. How did I do that? So the entire story there is I spoke to, a friend of a guy I worked in Novartis. He put me in touch with someone else there. Then he put me in touch with someone else there. And I followed up each of these people at least 5 times, just asking, hey, I'm doing this, I'm so-and-so, I have a bit of background in this, I'm really interested in what you guys do. I did a lot of homework, obviously. I need to know what I was talking about and what I wanted to achieve. And ultimately, I ended on ECTRIMS, which is a huge MS conference. I ended up speaking to the head of neuroscience, Novartis, and apparently she found it a really good idea to put me in touch with some people in her business development team. yeah, and I persuaded them to actually create this role for me, which kind of quite a unique position. But what I'm trying to say is, speak to people and do your homework and just ask people if there's anything out there that they can help you with.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go for a top-rated question here. Do you think having one postdoc position makes you more desirable to industry, or is straight from PhD better, okay? The big question, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say same. You obviously have more scientific depth that you bring to the organization, but then me personally, I just need to understand the science rather than do the science, if you see what I mean. So for me personally, a PhD it's good enough, if you want to put it that way. But if you go into more like an R&D function in, say, a company like Roche or whatever, like a pharmaceutical company, then maybe a postdoc would be a good idea. So depends a bit on what level you go into.
Thanks very much. There's a lot of AI researchers in the audience, or one AI researcher who's written a script to upvote their own question. How can I move into AI from a non-computer science background? Brackets, synthetic chemistry.
Good question. That's a good question. So you probably do a lot of data analysis already. I mean, at least you work with data on a daily basis. More and more researchers are having to deal with answering questions, and the data that we generate to answer these questions is getting more and more and more. So you develop skills such as statistical analyses, programming skills. So I would just encourage you to develop these skills and to develop these programming skills that might be very valuable.
Thanks very much. We have a couple of minutes to answer the remaining questions. So, as a PhD student in cognitive neuroscience, I find it very hard to find opportunities outside of academia. Do you have any advice on specific places to look, other than, of course, naturejobs.com?
icometrix.com/careers. Let's see. So this is the main reason that I indeed switched a little bit more towards the biological side of things. But I suppose that, cognitive neuroscience is becoming more and more important also in companies such as the Googles and the Facebooks and the companies that want your attention online. So that is becoming more and more valuable. It's a good question. Let me think about this some more.
Thank you very much. Another question. I'm going to rephrase that slightly. Do you think these business courses were essential for you?
Essential. Maybe not quite essential, although very, very helpful, because you will. So at Teva, my first internship, I was thrown into meetings that so many acronyms were used on, for instance, finance or marketing, that I wouldn't have any idea about. So in order to at least understand the jargon, it's worth at least doing some basic crash course on how does business function? How does a supply chain function? How do they have their channels towards their customers? And just get a broad understanding of business, that I would say is essential. All the depth, maybe not necessarily.
Thank you very much. We hardly got any time, but it feels unfair to just leave that question unanswered. So, how did you land your temporary role in Novartis
We already...
Oh my God, we already did it. Sorry,
we already did, yeah. So speak to people. Okay, let me just reiterate that to close off, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, you need to just get out there and ask people for coffees. It's amazing.